Let's talk about flexible wings. Are we so sure that the values in Formula One will change starting from the Spanish Grand Prix, which is scheduled to take place at the 4.657-kilometer Circuit de Barcelona-Catalunya on Sunday, June 1st? Ferrari believes it and thinks that the field values will change. We do not believe it so much for several reasons. The first concerns the past, as every single new technical directive has always harmed Ferrari. The second reason is more technical, as the problems affecting the Italian side could significantly impact them. Let us explain. Once the new technical directive comes into effect, lowering the front wing relative to the ground will be pursued by all teams. The reason? The common goal is to reduce the angle of attack of the profile in order to achieve a favorable balance in terms of aerodynamic efficiency. Some technical teams, however, have already demonstrated they can manage this condition more easily. This trend could cause an imbalance in the distribution of aerodynamic load, which will need to be rebalanced through other solutions. The strategy will be to bring the front structure closer to the ground to increase interaction with the airflow generated under the car. This element is crucial in determining the car's overall aerodynamic setup. Considering the difficulties the Ferrari engineers and technicians have faced in controlling variations in ground clearance, lowering the front end could end up being a limitation rather than a benefit. The reasoning is based on a concrete consequence. The SF-25 single-seater, by reducing the distance from the reference plane, causes excessive wear on the initial section of the plank installed under the floor. This behavior has been an obstacle for the Italian team in following the strategies of other competitors. If lowering the front had been functionally achievable, the lack of rotation seen from the start of the 2025 Formula One season would likely have already been mitigated. But unfortunately, it has not been the case. We hope we are wrong, but the situation does not look great for the Maranello team. Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur, primarily, expects to see a more compact group among the top teams starting from the Spanish Grand Prix onwards. At the Circuit de Catalunya in Barcelona, much stricter rules regarding front-wing flexing will be applied. This will coincide with Ferrari's aerodynamic update on this crucial component. During static tests, the regulations are already very strict. On a dynamic level, it is no secret that teams have always found ways to achieve wing flex in certain speed ranges. For this reason, FIA head of single-seater Nicolas Tombazis has been very angry and disappointed with various teams. Several surfaces in recent years have been made flexible for specific purposes. Our editorial team has tried to go into more detail on these solutions. The aim is to understand how this move could happen. One thing is certain, controlled wing flex is difficult to achieve, and the final result is a true engineering masterpiece. Behind all of this are extensive studies on wing stiffness, which not only consider the layout and orientation of the carbon skins, but also the matrix. The matrix is generally the resin, which, upon hardening, binds the fibers together. The stiffness of this so-called starting point varies with the exchange of heat. For each operating temperature of the wing, the damping coefficient can be experimentally estimated. The key point is this: the matrix could lose its stiffness, and it is this characteristic that could give the wing component its flexibility. We have discussed this with a Formula One technician. Flexion can therefore be activated thermally or even chemically. The central question we must ask ourselves at this point is, how is the temperature of the wing increased, in obviously localized areas, so as to allow flexion as explained a few lines above? The answer is far from simple for several reasons. First, it is possible that certain geometries are intentionally designed in some areas to create localized increases in static pressure. We have clearly analyzed this in recent months, especially on the rear wing. This condition corresponds to a rise in temperature. However, in theory, the carbon fiber used in wings has low thermal conductivity. This means the transfer of heat from the compressed air to the structure is limited. In other words, it is hard to think that a simple wing, structured as we know it, would heat up sufficiently, where the matrix would receive too little heat. We can then assume that materials could be used in the construction of the wings that enhance thermal exchange. It is certain that many teams, including Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, and primarily McLaren, have completely redesigned their front wings for Barcelona. We will see what happens in a few weeks' time. After the mediocre performance during the sprint weekend in Miami, the prancing horse now has 2 weeks of downtime to prepare for the first European race, which coincides with the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix round. Ferrari is gearing up to race in its own backyard at the 4.909-kilometer Autodromo Internazionale Enzo Edino Ferrari, with some much-needed aerodynamic updates. Frédéric Vasseur has a specific plan for the development of the SF25, although for the Frenchman these updates are not, as he sees it, the crucial factor to make the 2025 Formula One car work as expected. After a start to the 2025 Formula One campaign with more lows than highs, Ferrari is therefore required to change its pace. The expectations and announcements leading up to the season certainly did not paint a picture of Ferrari being in such difficulty. On the contrary, for most of the insiders, Frédéric Vasseur's team was ready to start just behind McLaren, ready to challenge it with a 99% different car from its predecessor. Instead, after 6 races, the Maranello team is only the 4th strongest on the grid after a Miami Grand Prix, where it ended up not only its main 3 rivals, but even having to battle the Williams cars of Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. Miami was the worst manifestation of Ferrari's problems with a track layout at odds with its car. It was the opposite for Williams, with Miami likely being its best-case scenario. At the Imola circuit in front of the Tifosi, the Italian team will attempt to address several issues on a circuit that is expected to suit the SF25 single-seater better than was the case at the Miami International Autodrome in Florida. Speaking from the United States during the last weekend, Ferrari team principal Frédéric Vasseur indicated that aerodynamic updates were planned for the next race, though he downplayed their overall impact, suggesting the Maranello team's challenges went beyond simple upgrades. According to Frédéric Vasseur, the issues affecting Lewis Hamilton's and Charles Leclerc's cars cannot be resolved merely by introducing a series of updates. His main focus remains on understanding the car better, especially in optimizing balance and tire management, an area where McLaren has excelled in this start of the 2025 Formula One Championship. The French manager emphasized that the key lies in finding the best compromise, particularly with the current car. The SF25 car will be fitted with new improvements for the first Italian race of the season, but further developments are expected. Following the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix, Frédéric Vasseur is already looking toward Spain, where Ferrari hopes to bring additional upgrades and see what will happen with the introduction of the new Technical Directive regarding wing flexibility. The Ferrari team principal stated that while a small step forward is expected at Imola, another is planned for the Spanish Grand Prix weekend in Barcelona, adding that the real challenge is in integrating everything effectively. Frédéric Vasseur also suggested that Imola could be a more favorable venue for Ferrari compared to Miami, as the team tends to struggle in low-speed corners. The circuit should allow better use of curbs, though he pointed out that tire management was the primary limiting factor at the Miami International Autodrome.